Have you ever wondered how your life would be without problems? Wonder no more. In this video, I'm gonna review Dissolve the Problem by Shifting Physical Reality, a spiritual book from Richard Dodds that is going to be a game changer if you decide to read it. Make sure you stick until the end to preview his 3-step process and know why I recommend you to read his book to shift into your problem-free reality. So Richard starts his book talking about 4 stages of development that he went through. The first stage would be the one where he understood life as a series of problems to solve. In the second stage, he started dividing life issues into 2 categories. The one that can be solved with money and the one that cannot be solved with money. In the third stage, he got into spirituality and he realized he created his own reality. So he figured out that the same way he could be creating his problems, he could be uncreating them. And in the fourth stage, he realized that life is perfect and there are no problems that need to be solved. Do you know that Albert Einstein quote that says, "The problems of our world cannot be solved from the same level of consciousness that created them"? So he suggests the idea that if we evolve to a higher level of consciousness, we can dissolve our problems. So what's the difference between solving and dissolving a problem? When you try to solve a problem, it becomes your enemy, something you have to fight. You spend most of your time worrying about it, trying to find solutions, and basically trying to get rid of it. Dissolving a problem has much more to do with once you acknowledge there is such a thing, you get into a neutral feeling of acknowledgement without any associated thoughts or emotions. And then the next step is to turn all your energy and all your attention into the desired outcome. So the idea here is to take your mind completely off the problem, because he says that 95% of the problem is happening basically on our mind. So the first step to dissolve a problem is to soften your insistence of it. He says that we spend most of our energy, 95%, on our own projections and our own worries about the problem, not dealing with the problem itself. And that 95% is actually the responsible of the persistence of the problem. It's what causes it keeps existing despite how hard we try to get rid of it. And he makes an important distinction, which is not engaging in the problem is not the same as denying it, which would take a lot of energy as well to do like, oh, it's not happening. No, he says acknowledge it, but don't give it all your thoughts and emotions and energy. So once you acknowledge it, which could take you very short, you just move on and put your focus and your energy into something else, not what you don't want. You adopt a neutral state and you don't go in one direction or the other. This is an inner state you cultivate. So you don't spend energy on trying to convince yourself that the problem is real, and you don't spend energy on trying to convince yourself that the problem doesn't exist. The key here is getting to this neutral feeling in the middle. So he shows a table that I really liked, which you make a list of the challenges you're dealing with, and you realize the time that you need to dedicate for the thing itself. Like for example, he puts an example of worrying about money. Like how much time actually you need for that. Like maybe you need an hour a week to pay your bills or something like that, or an hour a month. And then you realize that what you're actually spending on that, maybe you're worrying about that like most of the time you are awake. And then he makes a difference in the end, and then you see all the excessive energy that you've been dedicating to that. So that's the energy that if you cut the mental power supply that you've been dedicating to that, and put it somewhere else, that it makes a whole difference. So the second step is to shift your focus into a reality where the problem doesn't even exist. He calls this shifting into the infinite space of all possibilities. And it's very much what one does in meditation, which is being in that state where you even forget that you have any problems, that you cannot recall them. In that state you're in this inner peace where you don't even remember them. So the key here is to extend that state during as much time as possible. This reminds me of a quote from Lewis Carroll, which is this one. "The horror of that moment," the king went on, "I shall never forget." "You will though," the queen said, "if you don't make a memorandum of it." So it's this idea, shifting into a new reality where you don't even remember that you have a problem. And this generates a new point of attraction. It is important to realize that if we are not trying to make anything happen, that's not our job. That's the universe job. Our only job is to be like a channel of the energy that is going through. We simply direct this universal energy, and so we choose what to focus on. That's our power. Our job is to decide what we want with absolute clarity. That's it. And then direct the flow of universal energy. So now you know where you don't want the energy to go, where do you want it to go. And the third step is to stay in that alternative reality for longer and longer. Maybe in the beginning we can only stay in this state while we are meditating, but he challenged you to stay maybe first until the breakfast, maybe then until lunchtime, and so on, and until you're able to sustain that state for the whole day, no matter the outer circumstances. And so once you start changing on the inside, the outer circumstances will eventually change, but don't focus on that. Focus on your inner state. So what happens when you dissolve a problem? You don't worry, you don't struggle, your consciousness evolves, and you know there is a better way, which is to go inside and let the universe take care of everything. And here it's very important not to get distracted by the outer circumstances, and not to change as a reaction to what you observe on the outside. So stay in that alternate reality for as long as you can, until your reality shifts. So soften, shift, and stay. So in this state, you stop worrying about how things will turn out and just leave it to the universe. And if there is something you need to do, you will be inspired to do it. It will never be a struggle. You will feel guided to. You won't have to force yourself to do it, trusting that everything happens in divine timing. Until then, you take no action except for inspired action. And so how will you know that this worked? The concept of problems itself will be erased from your life. And why read this book? Well, shift into a problem-free reality. It's up to you. I really enjoyed reading this book. It's really short. I read it in a week or so, and I'm already noticing the changes. So I really encourage you to read it. If you haven't watched it yet, take a look at the introduction video I did last week, and keep tuned for the next videos where I'll be talking about the eclipse coming up next week with the new moon in Taurus, and the new video series about stages of awakening. Thanks so much for watching the video. I really appreciate your support, and hit the like button if you got value. Let me know if you read the book. Keep asking your questions. I'll be answering in the next video, and I will see you there. Bye bye.